Making an apron. First of all, you need to lie out your 1 metre of chosen fabric for your apron and fold it in half. Now it's important you fold it the correct way. First, identify one of your selvage edges. Now a selvage is like a sealed edge or where it has been hooked on a machine to be manufactured and made. So what you will see on one of your edges is that there are some tiny little dots, or maybe it looks a little bit frayed all the way along, but it is consistently the same all the way across. Finding one of those, and then you fold that across, because opposite will always be the other selvage. The other edges is where they would have cut it in the fabric store. So I'm laying that nice and flat, my edges nice and neat together. Okay, the second thing that you need is the pattern piece. It looks like this. Basically, it is like half of an apron. If I was to wear this one, it would tie around like this. We're going to place this longest edge along our long fold, right up in line with the fold of our fabric. The reason we're doing that is when we cut it out, it'll open out and become a whole apron. So I'm not wasting, I'm going to line it up right down with one of the edges. And it's time now for me to pin all the way around and then cut it out. It's all pinned in place. Grabbing your fabric scissors, we're going to cut around it as if we're cutting out a stencil. The only edge we don't cut is the long one that is on the fold. That would be cutting our apron in half. So all of the edges bar the fold. My apron is here. I need to now remove the pins and take off the pattern. Keep your scrap fabric for later. You can use it to make a pocket or some pot holders if you have time at the end. My piece of fabric is now ready to start some sewing. The next step is to find the two longest straight edges. So on mine, they're down the sides here and on the other side down here. Basically, we're doing a double rolled hem. So 1 centimetre fold, another centimetre, pinning it in place and sewing. This is a long edge, so if you find that it is too long to use the whole length to do your edge press, you can always do smaller sections at a time and edge press that way. And then move on to the next section, 1 centimetre and 1 centimetre. So I now do a second one and edge press. I'm going to continue that and then pin it all in place and repeat. Both of the long straight edges have been double rolled and pinned. They're now ready to sew in a matching coloured thread. The long edges or the sides of the apron have now been sewn, and it's now time to work on what we call the top of the apron and the bottom hems of the apron. They're quite similar to the sides. You start off with a 1 centimetre fold, but the second fold is 3 centimetres. This is just to add visual appeal to your apron, so the second fold's much larger. I'm going to edge press, pin, and then sew the top and repeat the same along the bottom. The top and the bottom hems have now been sewn with the fold 1 and 3 centimetres. The only two edges of our apron left to neaten are the two curves here, bit that tucks around under our arms. Now, often students panic with having to fold 1 centimetre when it's a curve. One advantage we have is because it is cut on a curve and on an angle, or what we call the bias, there is a small amount of stretch that will help us to achieve a 1 centimetre fold all the way around on that curve. So my biggest tip to do the curve successfully is to do a small part at a time. Don't try and fold the whole thing over, because you end up with a thicker fold on the corner and then a really thin fold in the center. Just do a little section at a time and then work your way along with your edge press. Next little section and next little section, and then go for your second fold, and the same with pinning, small sections at a time, and then just take your time with sewing it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. The two curved edges have been sewn. So all of the edges of the apron are now hemmed and nice and neat. We're going to flip over to work on the front. And the next section to work on is the neck strap and the strap that ties around your waist. So you need to get a measuring tape or a ruler to measure 70 centimetres of the herringbone tape, which is this here. I've chosen black just to go with my print. Measuring to 70, and then I'm going to cut that off, ready to work with it. So that's my neck strap. The other herringbone tape that we have left is what we're going to use for the waist strap. So I need to cut it in half. So I've got two separate straps, one for the left and one for the right. I'm going to straighten it out. Mine's a bit tangled. Even the edges. I've just got it folded in half so I can cut it in half here. I'm going to put these aside just for now. For the neck strap, to attach it, because at the top it does sometimes fray, we're going to fold it over 1 centimetre to tuck it under those raw edges, and then about 2 centimetres a second time. That way those frayed edges are tucked inside and we've got a nice thick secure piece to attach to the apron. The neck straps sit in the top corner above the curve and then across the top, and so with my fold intact, I'm going to pin it in the top corner there so that it can go around the top, and then I will do the same on the other side. So I've kept that 1 and 2 centimetre fold, and I can now pin it in place. It is a little tricky when you go to the sewing machine because you will have to take out the pin, but just hold it in the right position. And then this one here, curve around and do the same thing. 1, 2, top corner, and pin. To sew this really securely, what I suggest you do is sew a square like you would have practiced in your test, turning the corners, and then do a line across and a line across the other way to create like an X through the middle. That makes it extra strong. So do the same here and the same here, and then your neck strap will be attached. Neck strap is sewn on, and when I say a square with an X in the middle, it's hard to see on my sewing because I've used a matching colour thread, which you probably will too. But this is what I mean, right? So a square of sewing around where you're attaching it, and then an X through the middle, like that with your stitching. I'm going to use that same technique now to attach each side strap to the apron, but they then dangle loose, and that's how you tie it in a bow. So the positioning for them, put this on, is here. So underneath the curve on the side, just here. On the other side, I go under the curve and here. And we want them to point outwards so they can go around our waist. 1 centimetre, 2 centimetres, and then attaching it underneath the curve using a pin, and the same on the other side. I'm going to do that now. So the straps have been added on, and we just need to find the ends to neaten them off so that they don't fray. See, that one's already starting to fray. So just like we did before, we attach the other end, a 1 centimetre fold and then a 2 centimetre fold. This time we don't need to do a square and an X because it's not holding anything together, it's just to neaten the edge. So a single row down to hold the fold in place on this strap, and on the other strap is the final step. Now if you're going to add a pocket as an extension if you're finished, then you can do that after the straps. See your teacher for how to attach the pocket. Your apron's done.